Hey everybody, my name's Jeff. I'm going to talk to you today about one of my favorite features in VS Code, snippets. Let's get started. So first of all, what are snippets? Snippets in VS Code are basically little templates of code, and it makes it very easy for you to put that code into your project. So let's take a quick example here, and I'll show you guys how to make a really simple template, and then we'll move on to something more advanced after that. Let's say you have a piece of code, something like this. You have a name on all of your templates, and you want to give it a value of Jeff. Let's put this into a code template. So copy that, hit Control-Shift-P. This will bring up your command palette in VS Code. If you search for user snippets and you hit enter, and then this is going to be a TypeScript snippet. So I'm going to have TypeScript selected and hit enter again. Now this will take you to the JSON file that is for TypeScript snippets that you have created. And you can see here that it has an example snippet. So we're going to go ahead and copy that, paste it down here. One little trick for getting rid of comments in VS Code is to hit Control/. That will add or remove any comments on that line or on the lines that you have selected. So let's just really quick, we'll put in a title here, Jeff name, and then prefix. Prefix is a text that you would type to get this template or this snippet to show up. VS Code also calls it a trigger. So I'm going to call this test snippet. And for the body, I'm just going to copy this line from our other file. So I will paste that in right there. And I'll change the description to Jeff test snippet. And then save this file. Now if I go back to my TypeScript file, and I type in test snippet, you'll see it pops up in IntelliSense. You hit tab, it'll put in the body of that snippet into where your cursor is. Pretty cool, right? So this is a pretty boring snippet. Let's make something a little bit more usable and realistic. This is something that that you might use frequently in services or maybe a component, but probably more of a service in Angular. Let's change a couple things in here. So first of all, I'm going to copy all of this. I'm going to cut it actually, put it into a new file, paste it in there, get my tabs correct. And then I'm going to add in the replaceable variables you can put into these snippets. So if we go back to the TypeScript snippet file, you'll see in here that it has these examples on how you can have placeholders. So I'm going to copy that, go back to our little demo over here. And I'm going to highlight the word loading because that is something that we want to change because we don't want to always have this be called loading subject. We might want to have it be called something else. So if you highlight it, you'll see that here these other ones are kind of highlighted, showing where the other instances of that text in your file are. So in Visual Studio Code, if you hit Control-Shift-L, that will highlight all of those instances of that text in your file. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in that little placeholder from their example. And then I'm going to go back one with the left arrow, highlight label, and I'm going to change this to just name. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the type. So I'm going to highlight Boolean, Control-Shift-L. I'm going to paste in this again. This will be type. And we don't want it to be number 1, we want it to be number 2. So these numbers mean that as you tab through this snippet, those are the locations that those are going to hit as you tab through. So that will be number 2. And then for our default value, we want to change this to be number 3. And we'll just call this default value. When we go back to the snippets file, you may notice that the body is actually an array of strings. And so in order to get this to fit into that array correctly, what we need to do is surround every single line with quotation marks. A great way to do this in Visual Studio Code is to put your cursor at the very beginning, and then hold Shift and Alt, and then click at the beginning of the last line. This will select the first position in all of those lines. And then from there, you can just do double quote, hit end. This will move to the end of each line, and another quote and a comma, and now you have an array of strings. This is one of my favorite tricks in Visual Studio Code, and really any text editor can do this. Then we'll need to remove the last comma. We'll select everything, copy that, and put it into the body of our snippet. So add in your tabs. Let's change the name to behavior subject, description, behavior subject with getter setter, and then save this file. Let's go back to our component, and then from here, if you type behavior subject and hit tab, it's going to fill in all of that code, and you'll see that the name is highlighted because that was one of the placeholders in our text. So just to keep it consistent with what this was to begin with, I'm going to call this loading, and you see as I type, it replaces every single instance for that placeholder. Hit tab again. We're going to make this a Boolean. Tab again, default value is false, and then tab will take you to the end of the snippet. And that's it. You added all those lines just like that. Now let's do another quick example. So let's do this again. Behavior subject. And this one is going to be saving. It's going to also be a Boolean, and it's also going to be false. Okay, let's do another one. This is going to be deleting. Also a Boolean, and also false. So if you do control period, this will show you the actions you can take on your code. And here it knows that this is missing an import. So I'm just going to say add import from our XJS. That'll add at the beginning of the file. And now these all work. So this was a pretty quick example on how you can use snippets in VS Code. And you can use snippets for pretty much anything that is in a single file. So you could have, like I showed you at the very beginning, a really simple little line of text, a few lines of text like this one here. Or you could even have an entire file. Let's say you have a service or even a form that is pretty similar every time you edit. You could have that entire file. You just create a new file, add your snippet, and you're done. Snippets are pretty powerful in VS Code, and I suggest taking a look at them and see if you can add them to your workflow. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.